She stood by the sink, staring at the drain like it had answers. One hand on the counter, the other still holding her coffee, even though it had gone cold an hour ago. I was sitting behind her, on the edge of the couch, holding the envelope I never thought I'd print. "I'm not doing this for drama," I said, barely above a whisper. She didn't move, not even a blink. I placed the envelope on the table. It made the smallest sound when it hit the wood, like it was too ashamed to be loud. That's when her shoulder twitched. "You don't hug me anymore," I added. Still nothing. "You don't even look at me when I speak. You keep your phone under your pillow. You turned away when I was sick." She turned then, slowly, like turning to face a fire she thought she'd already put out. And then she laughed. A short, dry, breathless sound. "You're just lonely." It hit me harder than I expected. That word, just, like being lonely was some minor allergy. Like it hadn't been eating holes through me every night. "You think a hug would fix this?" she asked. Really? I didn't answer. Because yeah, maybe it would have. Maybe one hug, just one, where she didn't stiffen or sigh or check the clock over my shoulder. Maybe that would have delayed this whole thing for another month. Or year. Or however long it takes a man to fully disappear while still being alive. I slid the envelope closer to her. "I've already signed it." And that's when the mug slipped from her hand and shattered across the kitchen tiles. She didn't look at it. She looked at me, for the first time in months. And I mean looked, like she was seeing something she hadn't expected. Then her knees buckled. I swear to God, she actually knelt. She knelt right there, in her slippers and silk robe, among the shards of ceramic and yesterday's silence, and she said, "No, I'll save that for the next part." Because what she said changed everything. At first, I thought she tripped. The way her knees hit the floor didn't seem deliberate. She wasn't graceful about it. It was clumsy, raw, almost like her body gave out before her mind could process what was happening. I froze. I mean, what do you do when the woman who hasn't hugged you in months suddenly collapses in front of you? Not from pain or fear, but something stranger? She looked up at me. Her eyes were wide, glassy, her mouth slightly open like she was about to say something, but couldn't find the first word. The air in the kitchen changed. It thickened, like we weren't breathing the same oxygen anymore. "I didn't think you'd actually mean it," she whispered. Her voice cracked mid-sentence. Not dramatically, not some over-the-top, movie-worthy gasp, just enough to let the panic bleed through. Her hand reached toward the table, not to grab the envelope, but to pull it closer. She didn't even open it, just stared at it like it was radioactive. "I thought this was just another one of your quiet tantrums," she said. "The sighs, the late-night dishes, the heavy breathing before bed." I blinked. "You thought I was throwing tantrums?" She gave a bitter smile, not at me, but at the broken pieces of mug still surrounding her knees. "You sulk, Daryl. You sulk like a ghost. You don't shout. You don't storm out. You just disappear. Quietly. Piece by piece. I didn't know where to find you anymore." I should have felt vindicated. But I didn't. I felt exposed. Like all the hours I spent wondering if I was overreacting had suddenly been confirmed. I was disappearing. I wasn't crazy. And she had seen it. She just didn't care enough to stop it. Until now. Now she was crying. And I don't mean soft tears. I mean gasping, choking, shaking. Her robe sleeve smeared her face, but the tears kept coming. "I thought if I gave you space, you'd come back. I didn't want to smother you." I stared at her like I was watching a stranger wear my wife's face. "You stopped touching me," I said again, barely recognizing my own voice. "You looked disgusted every time I reached for you." "Because I felt guilty," she shouted suddenly. "Every time you got close, I remembered what I did." Silence. I didn't breathe. My hands went cold before the meaning even fully registered. What do you mean?" She didn't answer. She just pulled her knees tighter to her chest. And that was the moment I realized this wasn't just about hugs. There was something else. Something she had been hiding. Something that was about to tear everything wide open. The room seemed to tilt. I could hear the fridge humming, the clock ticking, even the slow drip of water from the tap, all louder than her voice, because she still wasn't saying anything. I just stood there, hands frozen midair, waiting for her to take back what she'd said. But she didn't. She just sat there, hugging her knees, blinking like a child who'd broken something irreplaceable. "I wasn't planning on telling you," she whispered. That sentence cracked something in me. It wasn't even the betrayal, not yet. It was the casual tone, like she was admitting to forgetting to lock the door, or losing her keys. Not this. What do you mean guilty? I finally said. What the hell do you mean by that, Sylvie? Her lips trembled. It was a dinner. I laughed, but it came out all wrong. Too loud, too high. A dinner? She shook her head fast. No, I mean, it started as dinner. With Ron. That name hit like a slap I never saw coming. Ron. Her coworker. The one she swore was just harmless. The one who made jokes I didn't find funny. The one who hugged her too long at her birthday. The one who texted her memes at midnight and sent Spotify playlists to help her focus. You told me nothing ever happened with him, I said, hearing my own voice crack in the middle. She was crying again, but I wasn't moved this time. I was stuck in a different gear now, slow, detached, like I was watching this through someone else's eyes. It was one time, she choked out. And it didn't mean anything. That phrase, didn't mean anything, echoed in my skull like a gunshot in a canyon. What does that even mean? That it was just physical? That it was worse? I looked at her hands. She was still clutching the edge of her robe like it was a parachute. She couldn't look at me. She kept blinking hard, like the tears were betraying her, too. We were drunk, she added. It was after the company retreat. I felt disgusting afterward. I still do. You didn't look disgusting texting him every night, I snapped. You didn't look guilty when you flinched from my touch. Her shoulders sagged like I'd punched her. I stopped hugging you because I didn't feel like I deserved to. Because I knew if you touched me, I'd break. And you'd know. She was right. Because in that moment, looking at her, I did know. I knew everything. I knew the warmth I'd been begging for was already gone, long before that night. I knew that I had been competing with a memory I didn't know existed. And yet, even as I stood there, shattered, the worst part wasn't the betrayal. It was the realization that she still wanted me to stay. She hadn't said it, but I could feel it. In the way she looked at me now, like I was both her judge and her lifeline. And for a terrifying moment, I actually wanted to forgive her. That scared me more than anything she'd confessed. I didn't answer her. I couldn't. Not because I didn't have words, but because every word I wanted to say felt like poison in my mouth. I turned away. Not dramatically, not like they do in movies. No slammed fists, no yelling, no theatrical exit. Just quietly, like someone switching off a light and walking out of a room. Behind me, I heard her shuffle to her feet. She was still barefoot, still surrounded by the broken mug pieces she hadn't cleaned up, like she didn't even feel them. Maybe she didn't. Maybe that's what guilt does. It numbs everything until you don't know you're bleeding. Daryl, please, she said, her voice raw. Say something. But what was there left to say? She had already said everything. In silence. In cold shoulders. In flinches. In midnight laughs that weren't meant for me. I walked down the hallway and into the guest room, the one we used to call the office. It still had the cheap IKEA desk, the unopened treadmill, and a lamp with a broken pull chain. I hadn't stepped foot in here in weeks. Maybe months. I closed the door, not to keep her out, but to hold myself in. The thing is, I didn't cry. I thought I would. I thought I'd sob and scream and punch the wall. But I didn't. I just sat there on the edge of the fold-out couch, staring at the bookshelf we never filled, and felt absolutely nothing. Not anger. Not pain. Just a stillness so loud it made my ears ring. There was a photo on the shelf. Us at the beach. Her on my back, laughing, arms wrapped around my chest. My mouth open mid-laugh. I looked at it for a long time, and the thought that kept circling my head was, what if that version of us never really existed? What if it was all projection? What if she never really loved me the way I loved her? Not deeply, not clumsily, not obsessively, just enough to look convincing. A soft knock broke the spiral. Daryl, she said through the door. I know you hate me. I don't blame you. But I need to explain something. Please. You need to hear all of it. All of it. I muttered, more to myself than her. I almost didn't open the door. But something in her tone, it wasn't just guilt anymore. It was fear. Not fear of me. I'm not intimidating. Never have been. But fear of something else. Something she hadn't told me yet. When I opened the door, her face was pale. Her eyes swollen. She was holding her phone in one hand, shaking slightly. I deleted everything, she said. The messages. The pictures. All of it. But something happened. I didn't speak. I just stared at the phone. She slowly turned the screen toward me. It was a message. From Ron. One line. You told him? My heart dropped. Not because of what it said, But because the timestamp was from 5 minutes ago, she hadn't cut him off. She hadn't ended anything. And now he knew. She snatched the phone back before I could even react, as if showing me that single message had been some involuntary twitch, a confession she regretted the second it happened. Her thumb hovered over the screen, trembling. I saw her open the thread, scroll fast, then hesitate. I blocked him. Just now. She said too quickly, like that fixed everything. I swear I did. He's just trying to scare me. Scare her? I tilted my head. Why would Ron try to scare you? Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Then her face shifted, subtly, but I saw it. A flicker of calculation behind the tears. I've known her long enough to read the micro-expressions. And that one told me she was deciding how much to reveal, like she was weighing what version of the truth I could emotionally handle without losing it. I told him it was a mistake, she finally said. That night, we were drunk, it was stupid, and I made it clear I didn't want anything more. I blocked him, but he found ways to message me. Burner numbers. Weird emails. Once, even a letter in my work locker. I blinked. Are you saying he's stalking you? She didn't answer. Just nodded slightly, like admitting it out loud made it too real. And you didn't think to tell me any of this? I asked, my voice rising for the first time. Not once. I didn't want to drag you into it. You'd already started pulling away. You were so fragile. I didn't think you could handle it. There it was. Fragile. The word I hated more than anything. You mean I was quiet? I said. You mean I didn't yell? Didn't accuse? Didn't turn into one of those men who punches walls? She looked down. And you took that as weakness? No, she whispered. I took it as a sign you'd already left me emotionally. So I handled it alone. You didn't handle it, I snapped. You kept texting him. That was before I blocked him. I swear to God, Daryl, I haven't responded in weeks. Please believe me. Another ping. Her screen lit up again. No ringtone. Just a silent notification sliding across the top. Unknown number. You made your choice. So did I? I reached for the phone. She didn't stop me this time. There were no messages visible, just that one. No thread history. No name. But something about it chilled me. The wording. The timing. The fact that he sent it right now, while we were standing in the hallway with a divorce envelope between us. You said you told him it was a mistake, I said slowly. Did you also tell him we were splitting up? Her silence was an answer. I backed up a step. You told him about the divorce before you even responded to me. Because I didn't think you'd go through with it, she cried. I thought you were bluffing, Daryl. My heart was beating too fast. Not from anger, from dread. Not for me. For her. Because in that moment, I realized something terrifying. She wasn't lying about everything. She really had tried to end it. And now, she was scared. Not of losing me, but of what he might do next. I didn't know what scared me more, that she was hiding the truth, or that she might actually be telling it now. The message glowed between us like a loaded weapon. You made your choice. So did I. 7 words. One chilling tone. Not angry. Not desperate. Just final. Sylvie leaned against the wall, sliding down until she hit the floor again. Her breath came in shallow bursts. She clutched her phone like it was the only thing keeping her tethered to the room. I didn't move to comfort her. That instinct had died somewhere back in part 3 of this disaster. I didn't think he'd take it that way, she whispered. He always made dumb jokes, flirted too much, but I thought he was harmless. I said nothing, because I was doing something I hadn't done in a long time. I was watching her. Really watching. Not with anger. Not with pity. With detachment. Like I was standing outside the house I used to live in, realizing all the furniture inside was broken and covered in dust. I didn't even recognize the shape of what we used to be. And then she looked up at me. He said he was going to tell you everything if I didn't leave you first, she said. That was the deal. I told him no. And now he's... Her eyes darted toward the dark window like she expected to see him standing there. Is he dangerous? I asked. I don't know. Is he obsessive? A pause. I don't know, she said again. But this time her voice cracked with something she hadn't admitted to yet. Guilt. Real guilt. Not for cheating, but for underestimating him. You should have told me, I said. My voice was low, steady now. Not for your sake. For mine. For our safety. I didn't want you to think I was lying about ending it. I laughed, sharp, humorless. You were lying. That stopped her. She blinked at me like I'd slapped her. You told him we were divorcing before you told me you cheated. That's a lie by omission, Sylvie. You let me hand you that envelope thinking you were just emotionally distant, not that you've been sleeping with your coworker and hiding messages like some amateur spy. I panicked. No, I said, cutting her off. You made a choice. Just like he said. I walked past her, back into the kitchen. The envelope was still sitting there, untouched, like a trap she forgot to disarm. I picked it up, then flipped it over and placed it in the center of the table. This time, I didn't do it gently. She followed me, barefoot and pale, her robe clinging to her like dead weight. What are you going to do? She asked, barely breathing. I don't know yet, I replied, turning to her. But I knew something she didn't. I wasn't going to be the fragile one anymore. I wasn't going to sit and wait for some man I'd never met to destroy what was left of my life. If Ron wanted to play games, I could play too. And the first move was to answer his message myself. I didn't tell her what I was doing. She followed me down the hallway, asking questions in that unsteady, breathy voice people use when they're pretending everything's going to be fine. But I wasn't listening. I was already too far ahead of her in my mind, rerunning every moment, every hesitation, every word she said and didn't say. Back in the guest room, I closed the door, locked it, not to shut her out this time, but to give myself 5 uninterrupted minutes to breathe and to think, really think. I opened my laptop, went straight to my backup email, not the one I use for bills or junk or social media, the one even she didn't know existed. I created it years ago when I was freelancing for shady clients who didn't pay on time. I never deleted it. I copied the unknown number from her screen before she could lock the phone again. And now I used a burner text app to send a message, 1 line only. What choice are you talking about? I hit send. For 2 minutes, nothing happened. Then, the typing dots appeared. And suddenly, they stopped. I stared, waiting. Then the reply came through, short and surgical. She told me you'd fold. Guess she was wrong. That line didn't just bother me. It infuriated me. He wasn't trying to provoke her. He was provoking me. And somehow, he had been watching long enough, close enough, to think he knew how I'd react. The next message came seconds later. She left out the part about the hotel, didn't she? My stomach twisted. Hotel? I hadn't heard anything about a hotel. I didn't answer right away. My hands hovered over the keyboard. I heard a knock at the door, not loud, but persistent. Daryl, she said softly, can we please talk? I didn't tell you everything. I was scared. I didn't respond. I needed to know how deep this went. So I typed back. No, she didn't mention a hotel. When? This time, it took longer. The answer came in 2 parts. First, 3 nights after the retreat. Then, she said she needed time to think. Said you were suffocating her. Everything inside me turned to ice. 3 nights after the retreat. She told me she was going to her sister's lake house to clear her head. She even left a note on the counter with a smiley face drawn next to it. A smiley face. And I, pathetic, trusting idiot that I was, sent her a hope you feel better text and waited all weekend, thinking I was giving her space. That whole time, she was in a hotel. With him. The door rattled again. A little louder now. Daryl, please. You can hate me, I deserve it. Just let me explain the rest. I'll tell you everything. No more lies. But I wasn't listening anymore. I wasn't even angry anymore. Because something inside me had shifted. I had spent months breaking myself down, trying to figure out what I did wrong. What part of me was too boring, too needy, too quiet. I had clung to the idea that I somehow deserved to be unloved. But now I saw it for what it really was. It was never about me being weak. It was about her knowing I wouldn't fight back. That I'd take it, absorb it, be the soft landing for her guilt. And now, the man she betrayed me with was texting me like this was some twisted inside joke. But he made one mistake. He thought I was still the same man she walked all over. I opened the door slowly. She stumbled back, eyes red, mouth open. You said you were at your sister's, I said quietly. That weekend. After the retreat. She froze. Color drained from her face. I was going to tell you. You were in a hotel. She opened her mouth again. Nothing came out. She looked down. That was all the confirmation I needed. I want you out, I said. Her head jerked up. Daryl, no. I don't care what story you were preparing. I don't care if you're scared of him. You will pack a bag, and you will leave. Tonight. Where am I supposed to go? To hell for all I care. She started to cry again, but this time it didn't move me. I had spent so long trying to earn scraps of affection that I didn't even realize how much of myself I'd let rot in the process. She reached for my arm. I stepped back. "You made your choice," I said. "So did I." Her voice cracked. "Daryl, he's not going to stop." I nodded. "You're right. He's not." Then I picked up my phone, took a breath, and made a call I never thought I'd make. Because if Ron wasn't going to stop, I needed to make sure someone else made him. And I knew exactly who to call. I didn't call the police. I didn't call a lawyer. I called my brother. You need to understand, we hadn't spoken much in the last 2 years. Not because of anything dramatic. Just life. Distance. I had slowly pulled away from everyone during the slow death of my marriage. But now, sitting in the ruins of what I thought was my future, I needed someone who remembered me. Not who I became around her, but who I used to be. He picked up on the third ring. And just hearing his voice, that dumb sarcastic tone, cracked something open inside me. "Hey," I said, choking back everything. "Can I come stay with you for a while?" He didn't ask questions. He just said, "Bring beer." I packed a bag with the essentials. Laptop, headphones, journal. Left the wedding ring on the kitchen counter, next to her half-drunk coffee. She didn't try to stop me. I think some part of her knew the real goodbye had already happened. Not today, not when I confronted her, but months ago, when she started flinching at my touch. When I walked out the front door, I didn't feel rage. I didn't feel grief. I felt weightless, like someone had untied an anchor from my chest and let it drift out to sea. At my brother's place, things were quiet, uncomplicated. He made awful microwave burritos, handed me a controller, and we played video games like we were 17 again. We didn't talk much that first night, but I slept, really slept, for the first time in months. A week later, I blocked Ron's number. Not out of fear, out of disinterest. Whatever drama he thought he could stir up, he was screaming into an empty room now. I was gone. Sylvie tried to call twice. I didn't answer. On the third try, she left a voicemail. Said she was sorry. Said she was getting help. Said she hoped one day I'd understand. I don't. And that's okay. Some people hurt you so quietly, so gradually, that you only realize how deep the wound goes once you've finally stopped bleeding. I started seeing a therapist. I started jogging. I took a weekend trip alone, hiked a trail in Colorado I always said I'd do next year. I finally did it. And one day, I woke up, made coffee, and realized I hadn't thought about her in almost a week. That was the moment I knew I was free. She didn't break me. She revealed me. She showed me who I was when I had nothing left to give. And I found a version of myself I didn't even know existed. So if you're reading this, wondering if it's worth it to walk away, wondering if you'll survive the silence, the guilt, the hollow nights, you will. And one day, you'll wake up and realize that your peace means more than her apology. And that'll be the day you come back to life.